Bueno, doncs un fort aplaudiment pel Will. Penso que és una pel·lícula que té tantes coses, no? Tantes capes. There's so many layers in this movie. No? Bueno, jo volia fer una primera pregunta abans de donar-vos la paraula, que és, I first wanted to ask you how's Sean right now. Volia saber com està la parella, com està el Sean. No?
Yeah, Sean's doing okay. He's back in Virginia, so obviously Gordon passed away in September, so Sean stayed in Scotland for another couple of months, and we sort of all did our best to look after him, and he's gone back to work. He's working in the chamber orchestra. I think he's sort of settled in now, so about a month ago he organised his own screening of this film. So obviously you experience, he's got a good board of directors who let him go to Scotland when it's needed, but I think a lot of people he worked with sort of didn't understand what he'd been through and where he'd been, so it was a really important thing for him to show his work, the screening, but he also invited sort of local caregiver organizations.
So it's I mean, all the caregivers are feeling very much recognized in this movie, no?
Yeah, and I think that was it's opened up a lot of conversation. I think the fact that Sean lives in Virginia, like, it's very rural, so the opportunity for caregivers out there is incredibly difficult. And this is just one example of a vulnerable person during COVID and what happened during that. So yeah, it opens up the conversation about caregiving.
Sí. Doncs us volia donar la paraula a vosaltres. Sé que la pel·lícula us deixa tots una miqueta així, però no sé si algú té alguna pregunta que li puguem traslladar al Will. She wants to know if the second comic is ready, and where can she find them?
So the second comic never got finished, basically. That's the unfortunate news, but a slight silver lining to that is, obviously you saw Gordon interviewing those caregivers. We had a partnership with the Open University for this film, which is it was an online university in the UK, and they basically took all the extended footage from those caregiver interviews and created a curriculum to help nursing, basically, creating empathy within nursing. So the comic was never printed, the caregiver's comic, but it sort of took form in this new educational curriculum for the Open University.
But where can we get the first one then?
You can go gordonshawartist.com, and you can buy the bittersweet comic that you see in here. That's actually the fourth one he did, so there's what are they called again? The first, he's got basically 3 original comics before the one you see in the film. They're very different. They're very early Gordon, early artist sort of stuff before he found his feet. So just to lighten the load a little bit, because the ending of this film is a real gut punch, right? But making it was like a joy. It was a joy to be with Gordon and Sean. And just as we did finish the film, Gordon presented us with this comic book that he'd been like a short comic strip where, I don't know if you've seen the film Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
But Gordon's in the shower, and then he opens the shower curtain, and then he sees me and Austin with the camera pointing it at him.
Well, he wants to congratulate you.
Thank you. Gracias.
And knowing how did the idea came at this, in which moment did he decide to start doing this work?
Start production with us.
Yeah.
So we met Gordon at a local comic book art fair, and he sort of had, it's one of these very local fairs, so that some of the artists are not very good, and some of them are all right, but Gordon had a garden shed, so a wooden shed you put in your garden. He'd painted it bright pink, and I was like, I'm just going to go straight to that one because that's the most interesting one. And Gordon was really shy. He was sort of hiding behind the shed, and we picked up the comic, went home and read it, and we were like, wow, I've read sort of non-fiction graphic novels before, but nothing quite like this, nothing that explored someone's like terminal illness and their mortality. And it felt like a documentary in the book, and it felt like he'd be ready for sharing, his wider story. So like, as you do in Scotland, we met in the pub, we had a pint, and then we agreed to something. We had no idea what we were doing, and we ended up taking the next 4 years creating it, so yeah.
But he seems to have had a big control on the script, no? Sembla que ell sabia perfectament el que volia dir, tenia un control sobre el guió, no?
Yeah, so he obviously did the animations. I think we have 10 animations in the film, and 8 of them come directly from the comic book. So, a lot of those really important story points, those really introspective thoughts that Gordon has, were already written, and we just had to, get him to consult on the animation. But as you say, like when COVID happens and he's locked in, we have to give him the camera. So we can ask him what to film, and often we never got that sort of stuff. Like we had to relinquish some control and just wait for these memory cards to come back to us. And there was probably like 6 hours of him filming the ducks on his walk, and it wasn't very useful. But there's also this incredible stuff that he decided to share, like those most emotive moments.
Més preguntes?
Que no entenc perquè quan el s'enfonsa o plora és com molt light. Suposo que s'ha enfonsat molts cops i això ho han tret, han decidit no posar-lo a la pel·lícula.
Okay, so we withhold things because we think they're sort of too emotional and too powerful. That's the question, basically. I think ultimately, I would say we didn't withhold anything, because I think the most emotional, like the bits with really raw emotion, where as an editor I might feel like I think that maybe is too sensitive to have filmed that. There's an ethical boundary, maybe I shouldn't film someone that vulnerable. Those are all moments that were given to us by Gordon on his home GoPro. And I think all the moments where we were filming him, he had a really high strength to him. But it's an excellent question, and I think one of the earlier cuts made Gordon look really, really strong. It made him look really happy, and we didn't have a lot of crying. And fundamentally, we had another editor come in, who was Barbara Tonishin, and she was really, really brave, I think, with the footage. I think because I know Gordon personally, and watching some of those scenes, the long, long bits of silence and crying I find really difficult. And as a director, I just want to cut away. I just want to cut away and then have like something happy happen. But Barbara really kept it as it was. So I think we didn't withhold anything. For me, that feels like, we've put a lot out there, maybe more than I'm always comfortable with. I think as a whole film, it works really well, but when you're in that moment, it's difficult to watch. So.
Quan et tornen a dir que està creixent, tu tornes a passar totes les fases que es passen amb un càncer, i aquí no n'hem vist cap.
Sí.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your questions. I think the main thing of the film is like there's not one experience for everyone, and I think that's sort of key to why Gordon was making comic books, because he kept being told things by medical professionals that were often inaccurate. They're based on best estimates, but they're not like catered to the individual. That's why he turned to comic books as a way of just expressing how he's feeling, So, yeah, but thanks for coming.
Doncs em sembla que se'ns ha acabat ja el temps. Agrair-vos moltíssim la vostra presència en aquesta primera edició. Us esperem a les properes edicions i, sobretot, thanks a lot for this excellent moment.